Hey everybody, welcome to Engineer's Blueprint. So you're fresh out of college with your hard hat on, ready to conquer the world of construction. That's awesome. But trust me, it's a jungle out there. Before you start pouring concrete and swinging hammers, you gotta know the common pitfalls that trip up even seasoned pros. We're talking mistakes that can turn a simple project into a costly, time-consuming, and even dangerous nightmare. In this video, we're diving deep into the top 5 blunders new engineers make on the construction site. And don't worry, this isn't your boring college lecture. We're gonna break it down with real-world examples, some cautionary tales, because who doesn't love a good what not to do story? And maybe even some slow-motion footage of things going hilariously wrong. Remember, understanding these mistakes isn't about fear-mongering. It's about empowering you to be a construction rock star. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's get you building your dream project without turning it into a construction fail compilation. Alright, let's kick things off with the big one, safety. This should be a no-brainer, but on a construction site, things can get hectic and protocols can slip. You're dealing with heavy machinery, heights, electricity, and sometimes even explosives. One wrong move can have serious consequences. One of the biggest mistakes new engineers make is not fully understanding or enforcing safety protocols. We're talking about wearing the right PPE, that's personal protective equipment for you newbies. That means hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, the whole shebang. Another common oversight is ignoring proper signage and warnings. Those signs aren't just for decoration, they're there for a reason. Make sure you and your crew understand and follow them religiously. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, come on, it's just a hard hat. It's not a big deal. And you know what? That's exactly what someone who's about to learn a very painful lesson sounds like. Seriously, I've seen firsthand what happens when people get complacent with safety. It's not pretty. Head injuries, falls, electrical shocks, you name it. It's not worth risking your life or the lives of others. Remember, safety is everyone's responsibility. As an engineer, you set the tone for the entire site. So be vigilant, speak up if you see something unsafe, and never ever compromise on safety, no matter how small the task. Trust me, it's better to be safe than sorry. And a whole lot less paperwork. Alright, moving on to mistake number 2. Miscommunication. This one might seem less dramatic than safety hazards, but trust me, it can be just as costly and chaotic. Construction projects involve a ton of moving parts, literally, and everyone needs to be on the same page. We're talking architects, contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and of course the crew on the ground doing the actual building. One of the most common communication breakdowns happens between engineers and contractors. Engineers speak one language. Technical drawings, anyone? While contractors might have their own way of interpreting things. And if those interpretations don't align, you're looking at potential rework, delays, and a whole lot of frustration. Another classic communication blunder is assuming everyone knows what's going on. Don't just send out an email and hope for the best. Have face-to-face meetings, confirm understanding, and encourage questions. It's always better to over-communicate than to leave things open to interpretation. Remember, a construction site is like a giant game of telephone, except instead of whispering secrets, you're building a structure that's supposed to stand the test of time. So make sure the message is clear from the get-go. I once worked on a project where a miscommunication about the type of concrete led to a 2-week delay. 2 weeks! All because someone didn't want to pick up the phone and clarify. So learn from my mistake, folks. Talk to each other, and then talk some more. Your project and your sanity will thank you for it. Chapter 3. Alright, let's talk about mistake number 3. Not double-checking measurements and materials. This one seems so simple, right? Yet, it's a trap that snags even the most experienced engineers. Remember that saying, measure twice, cut once? Well, on a construction site, it should be measured 10 times, cut once, then maybe measure a few more times just to be safe. Even a tiny error in measurements can snowball into a massive and expensive problem down the line. And speaking of materials, you'd be surprised how often the wrong stuff ends up on site. Maybe the supplier messed up the order, or maybe someone misread the specs. Whatever the reason, using the wrong materials can compromise the integrity of the entire structure. One time, I was working on a bridge project. Yeah, I build bridges. And we received a shipment of steel beams that were a fraction of an inch too short. It seems like a small thing, right? But trust me, when you're talking about a bridge, every fraction of an inch matters. We had to send the entire shipment back, which set us back weeks. So what's the takeaway here? Don't just assume the measurements on the blueprints are gospel. Verify everything, and then verify it again. And when the materials arrive, triple check that they match the specifications. Your attention to detail will save you a lot of headaches and budget overruns in the long run. Chapter 4. Now, let's talk about mistake number 4. Poor time management. In the world of construction, time really is money. Every day a project runs behind schedule means more labor costs, increased material expenses, and potentially even penalties for missed deadlines. One of the biggest time-sucking culprits is a lack of planning. Before you even break ground, you need a solid schedule in place. This means mapping out each phase of the project, accounting for potential delays, and setting realistic deadlines. Another common time management trap is failing to delegate tasks effectively. As the engineer, you can't do everything yourself, no matter how much you might want to. You need to trust your team and delegate responsibilities based on their expertise. Procrastination is also a major time waster on construction sites. Don't wait until the last minute to order materials, schedule inspections, or address potential problems. The earlier you identify and tackle issues, the less impact they'll have on your timeline. I once saw a project get delayed by months because the engineer kept putting off getting the necessary permits. By the time he finally got around to it, the regulations had changed and he had to start the entire process over again. It was a mess. So, be proactive, stay organized, and don't be afraid to crack the whip, nicely of course, if things start to fall behind. Chapter 5. Alright, last but not least, let's talk about mistake number 5. Overlooking environmental factors. Look, I get it. When you're laser focused on blueprints and calculations, it's easy to forget that you're building in the real world. A world where Mother Nature sometimes has other plans. We're talking about weather conditions, soil types, potential natural disasters, all those fun things that can throw a wrench or a whole toolbox into your carefully crafted construction plans. One of the most common mistakes is failing to account for weather delays. Rain, snow, extreme heat, these can all bring a construction site to a grinding halt. And if you haven't factored in any buffer time, those delays can wreak havoc on your schedule and budget. Another environmental factor that often gets overlooked is the ground beneath your feet. Different soil types have different load-bearing capacities. Building on unstable soil without proper foundation reinforcement is basically asking for trouble. And let's not forget about those once-in-a-century storms that seem to be happening more and more frequently. Make sure you understand the risks in your area. Hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, you name it. And have a plan in place to protect your site and your crew. I once worked on a project in Florida where we didn't take hurricane season seriously enough. We ended up having to evacuate the site for a week while a Category 3 hurricane blew through. Luckily, there wasn't too much damage, but it was a costly lesson. So, pay attention to the forecast, get to know the lay of the land, literally, and be prepared for the unexpected. Because when it comes to Mother Nature, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Outro. So, there you have it, folks. The top 5 mistakes new engineers make on the construction site. Look, I get it. Starting your career in construction can be daunting. There's a lot to learn, a lot at stake, and probably a lot of pressure to prove yourself. But here's the thing. Everyone makes mistakes. It's how you learn and grow. The key is to learn from the mistakes of others so you can avoid repeating them yourself. So go out there, build awesome things, and remember the golden rule of construction. Safety first. Communication is key. Double-check everything, manage your time wisely, and respect Mother Nature. And hey, if you do happen to make a mistake or two along the way, don't sweat it too much. Just learn from it. Share the story with your fellow engineers. We all love a good construction fail anecdote. and keep on building. And if you ever need a laugh, just remember that one time I accidentally ordered 10,000 rubber chickens instead of rebar. But that's a story for another video.